Hey, Warriors fans, Scott Warris, still talking Warriors men's basketball because they just keep winning. He is the head coach, Aanonsen. Of course, if you don't know by now, you've been living under a rock. Warrior men's basketball is headed to the Sweet 16 for the first time ever. So we're going to do a little recap of last weekend and, more importantly, a preview of this coming weekend. Coach, first of all, congratulations. I know you're going on like no sleep, probably. The time change didn't help either, I suppose, either. How has it been for you just personally here? You're like 3 hours of sleep probably since the buzzer sounded.
No sleep would be the exact term. That would be correct. Sunday was a whirlwind, with the time change, with the inability to just kind of let my mind slow down. It was a couple hours of sleep. Then it was trying to race around on Sunday to church, and my son had a basketball tournament, so I got to coach that. And fast forward to about 8 o'clock, my one daughter came home from a volleyball tournament. Then my next daughter came home from the other volleyball tournament at 9 p.m. And then, believe it or not, I was working on some coursework because I'm an adjunct instructor too. So that was a fun night, not a lot of sleep, and then you wake up again and get ready to roll on Monday.
I want to ask how much caffeine you've had or how much you are having.
Nobody wants to talk about that right now.
Okay, I want to go back last weekend for just a couple moments, Coach, and I will talk about the Platteville game, obviously, but I don't want to give short shrift to what you did against Calvin. I mean, you don't get to play in that environment against Platteville and do what you did if you don't knock off Calvin, and you did by 12, and you blitzed them early. You really set the tone early. Breck had a great game, outstanding performance. To throw that first punch, like you have many times this year, was so important against those guys, the first round.
It was, I think that was the difference between last year's opening game against Wash U, where we started out in a huge deficit and had to come back. And our guys just had a different look on Friday night. So when we threw the first punch, our whole coaching staff, I think, breathed a sigh of relief, like, okay, it's going to be a really good game. And, it just continued for 40 minutes against a really good Calvin team. They came in winning 20 games in a row.
Nation's longest streak.
Nation's longest winning streak. They won the MIAA regular season and the tournament and beat the defending national champions in Shrine. So just a huge win for our program to beat a team like Calvin.
The turnaround then, and I know it was a long time ago and a lot has happened since, but what was the message in the turnaround, trying to stay fresh and all that stuff and keep the bodies ready to go for a tough matchup the next night against Platteville?
It's making sure we stayed in our routines.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the guys had to ensure that they had a certain type of pasta for our post-game meal, which was very important. Yes, but just, instilling that we belong here. And I think the big thing now is our guys know we belong here. And that's going to hopefully catapult us this weekend as well.
The next night, and many of you have seen it, if you're any one of the, 100,000+ who have clicked on any number of the social media posts and the stories and the videos and things like that, but to beat the second-ranked team in the country in Platteville 75-73 in overtime, and every overtime game, regular season or postseason, the highs, the lows, the turning points, the heroes, the GOATs, back and forth. At what point, maybe it was the bus ride home, maybe it was the next morning, I don't know, did it kind of set in what you did and how you guys did it?
Yes and no. I think the joy is when the seedings came out. We felt we were probably arguably in one of the hardest pods in the country. 3 top 25 teams, again, playing against a team who had the nation's longest winning streak. And then, your victory prize is playing the number 2 team in the country in a true road game. That's difficult. That's something that the NCAA Division I tournament doesn't necessarily have to deal with. So it's easier, I think, to have some upsets because you're playing for the most part on neutral courts, where Saturday was just an unbelievable environment that I'll never forget. I don't know if we're ever going to replicate. You were there. It's such a fun, hostile environment to play in. And for our guys to respond the way they did was just unbelievable.
Did anything of all that happened on Saturday night, did anything surprise you about your team? Any aspect of all of it?
No. I don't know how much more I could say. I think we came out battle-tested. We, again, I don't know if we threw the first punch, but it was a back and forth, like, heavyweight fight. And the ability for our guys to stay laser focused, the ability for our guys to just kind of trust the system and be able to make some minor adjustments throughout the game. As a coach who has mentored these guys for 1 year, and some of our guys it's been 5 years now, I can usually tell by the look in their eyes during the game how the game's going to go. And for instance, last Sunday when we had the tough game against St. Norbert, I could look in their eyes and I could sense just there was something a little off that I could not find a way to kind of get their minds right. But all weekend, when I looked into our guys' eyes, like they had the belief, they had the mindset, they had the confidence in one another that we were going to get this job done.
So many great performances to knock off Platteville. I was so happy for Jacob Stoltz. Because let's be honest, if that game isn't won in overtime, he will remember those free throws for the rest of his life for all the wrong reasons.
Sure.
Now he's going to remember those free throws for the rest of his life for all the right reasons. To know his backstory, to know what he's gone through, to be in that moment, to have the strength mentally and physically to hit those shots. I have goosebumps just thinking about it, and I don't even know him as well as you do.
It was unbelievable. You know, we had a lot of highs and lows last year in the Wash U game, and for him to just be able to come back in the overtime game and just do what he did was unbelievable. And probably the highlight is we were in the locker room, and he just came up to me, and we hugged, and he was bawling, and it was just so special to watch him have that success. Because as a coach, that's what you dream of, right? Is putting guys in position in big moments to succeed. And I tell you what, even making 2 out of 3 free throws in a situation like that is unbelievable. And how the third one didn't go in, it must be laws of physics, because the thing seemed like it was 3/4 of the way down.
And then he comes out, all right, so 0.5 seconds to go. Warriors are down by 2. He hits the first 2 free throws, timeout, misses the third, we go to overtime. To then come out and score 7 of your 10 in overtime is resiliency off the charts.
What people don't realize is he was the Region 8 Rookie of the Year 5 years ago, too. And he was the runner-up to Conference Player of the Year as a freshman. So although maybe he hasn't gotten the personal accolades the last few years, he's been one of our go-to guys for 5 straight years now.
That atmosphere, you already alluded to it. You talked about it after the game on Saturday night. Unreal, just remarkable, incredible, all those adjectives and more. To know going forward, I imagine that we went through that atmosphere against that team in that type of game and came out on top. I mean, anything the rest of the way is doable, and that's an understatement.
Yeah, when you get to this time of year and you get to the Sweet 16, it's all about who can play hard, who can kind of impose their style of play the best. And honestly, as you know, you got to make a few shots along the way too.
Okay, so Warriors move on, and we'll turn the page. Practice, and we're kind of in the middle of the week here. What have you stressed? What will you be stressing? I know routine is so important in terms of getting your guys to maybe mentally get in the right frame. I mean, the celebration at some point has to end, and you turn the page and prepare for your opponent and Wash U. So from a scheduling, practice perspective, how have you and your staff kind of laid this stuff out?
It'll be very similar to last week. It's just important for our guys. Again, we talk about the mindset, not get too high, not get too low, be who we are, do what we do, and we tip it up on Friday, have the confidence and belief that we're the best team in the gym.
Friday at 4 o'clock, the Sweet 16 game will be at UW La Crosse. Oh, there's some sweet irony there.
Sure, yeah.
Against Wash U. Speaking of irony, the team that knocked you off in overtime last year in the first round, and there's a ton of familiarity. The rosters, we were talking about it before, the guys who played in the game, most of the guys who started in the game, both teams are all back. Give us a thumbnail sketch on Wash U. I mean, I imagine you know them, they know you, so like you said, make some shots. Whoever makes more shots.
Yeah, I mean, Pat's an unbelievable coach. I've been coaching against him since my time at Lakeland University. Fortunately, I've actually watched a lot of Wash U games throughout the year, just as a Division III basketball fan. Have a ton of respect for what they've done, but what a better narrative to go against a team that you lost to in overtime a year ago in a heartbreaker, and now you can play them on a neutral floor.
What have you heard from your guys, from your leaders about this matchup, about their motivation, about their mindset as you get ready for this one? What are you hearing from the guys?
They're excited. They're excited to hopefully have another chance to tip it up against them. And, our goal this year is to come out on top.
4 o'clock on Friday at La Crosse against WashU. Coach, before we let you go, let me ask you for an X factor. Oh, I love my X factors. You know that. Something off the beaten path. Maybe it's a player, maybe it's a stat. Something that has to go right on Friday afternoon against WashU.
I think probably behind the scenes, the stat that we did an unbelievable job of at Platteville that people didn't see was the rebounding edge and the rebounding advantage. We're an okay rebounding team. I won't put us as an elite rebounding team, but Platteville is a really, really good rebounding team, and we kind of controlled them on the glass. If you look at last year's stats, one of our things we could have been better at down there was the rebounding margins. So I think if we can kind of hold the line there, I really like our chances.
Hey, real quick, what are you hoping your young guys take from this entire experience? I was, out there on Saturday night, and I'm watching Sam Hans get some time in that environment as an underclassman, as a freshman. What do you hope those young guys are taking from this remarkable ride?
I think a lot of our older guys have been talking about some of the highs and lows over the last 5 years and kind of the journey and enjoying the moment, but still working hard to prepare for the future. So hopefully the young guys are just taking this all in, because I don't think they actually know what's going on, maybe like I don't either. But then in the off season, putting in their minds that they have to work extremely hard to have the opportunity to even play in an NCAA tournament game again.
Real quick, we're going to play 5 questions. But all 5 questions pertain to last weekend, okay? As always, don't overthink it. First answer that comes to mind. Number 1, Saturday night, Platteville. What or when? When was the moment that you knew you won the game?
When the buzzer sounded.
I thought you might say that. Number 2, what's the first thought that went through your mind after the buzzer sounded? The very first thought.
I've been visualizing this for a full year. It's a surprise to many, but not to our team.
Number 3, how many text messages did you have on your phone when you finally got around to checking your phone, maybe when you boarded the bus after?
Somewhere between 300 and 400.
Follow-up question, not on the list. How many have you responded to yet?
I hope I've gotten back to everybody.
Oh, that's impressive.
I tried really hard between either on the bus or to Monday morning to try and get back to everybody. But I'm going to assume I missed 1 or 2, in the cracks. But it's been fun, right? Having success and just enjoying the moment.
Number 4, what one text or voicemail surprised you the most? I can't believe I heard from him or her. Wow, I haven't heard from that guy in forever. Who would that be?
A couple of my college teammates, actually,
great.
from UW La Crosse, that just randomly kind of texted me. I had a couple buddies who were on the road, and one of my friends, again, the assistant coach at Minnesota, called me at like 11:30 at night, talking about how he watched the game and how jacked he was. Now, he couldn't sleep. And obviously, we turned the page and talked a little bit about his Rutgers matchup the next day, but just was not expecting that, he was watching with his team or coaching staff, during the game. And just, I didn't realize how many people actually watched the game, honestly. And then a couple days later, I hear how many clicks were about our locker room, and that was another thing that I had no idea. As my kids were picking on me Sunday night about, Dad, I haven't seen you that emotional ever. What is going on? I was like, just excited.
This social media thing, I think it's here to stay.
For some people, yeah.
I'm with you on that. And last but not least, you heard from all those people, text and voicemails. Who was the first person you called or you texted, you initiated, you reached out to since Saturday night?
Yeah, the unfortunate part is with the stage of life my children are in, My wife was in St. Louis with my youngest daughter at a volleyball tournament, which I alluded to earlier. And my oldest daughter was with my mother-in-law in Kentucky at a volleyball tournament. And all three were pretty crushed that they couldn't come because they knew, that there was going to be a big moment. And my wife has been foreshadowing how the year is going to go, and I just tend not to ever believe her. So probably the most fun call was to my wife. We hopped on a FaceTime right away, and she's like, "I told you so, Aaron. I don't know why you doubted yourself." So that was the most fun that we couldn't share it together. But that's just sometimes how life works.
Will they be in La Crosse this weekend? Do we know what the schedule is? Oh, no. Oh, no. They're going to be there?
So we're trying to work some things out.
Okay.
My youngest daughter has another commitment, and my wife might have to stay back on Friday for sure with her. But my oldest daughter and my son will be there.
Well, that just means you got to win Friday so she can come on Saturday. That's what that means.
Hopefully her predictions are correct.
It'll be the, excuse me, getting choked up, the Sweet 16 matchup on Friday, 4 o'clock for the Warriors and Wash U. Coach, we'll keep doing this as long as you guys keep winning.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching, everybody.